estate agent in Utah. And I think we got to change the video here. There we go. Spring is a top real estate agent in Utah. And her husband, Brian, started a company called Sisu, which is probably why you're on this webinar to maybe learn a little more about. And we're going to focus on how that product, how that software, that suite, if that's the word to use, Brian, what word should I use? What would you call Sisu? Product, software, suite?
It's a software platform, sure.
Software platform. Got
there
it.
There you go.
It's going to help you build your database. It's going to help you hold your agents and yourself more accountable to making sure that they're asking permission to stay in touch by turning your habit mets into mets, asking for email addresses, because that's really the ultimate asset in the professional services business is, your database, your list. So we're going to talk about that today. Sound good, guys?
Let's do it.
All right, sounds good. So, Spring, you've been a client at Vyral for quite some time. Why don't you just basically explain to people, if they wanted to, just a general overview, if they wanted to get more commissions from their database, meaning their past clients and their sphere and their centers of influence, maybe some of their warm leads they're nurturing, just kind of what do they got to do? What would you recommend?
I'd recommend they actually have to reach out to them. So we do follow the Vyral plan, where we email them twice a month with value-added content. And then we pull the open and click reports, and we call based off of the things that they clicked on, if they clicked off of property views or the content that we put out there. It's quite interesting, actually, Frank, that recently, every single time I send a 33 touch, I get business from that. I just had one the other day said, "You've been emailing me for 15 years. And I knew that you were my person when I was ready." And it was in our market, it's a substantially large transaction. So it's really just that consistency and making sure that you're constantly adding people to your email newsletter. That's also the key component to it.
So how long have you been selling real estate?
About 15 years.
And how many deals did you guys do last year?
We did roughly about 200, 190. So.
Are you still in production where you're still selling the houses?
I'm personally not in a lot of production. I mean, I will take a deal here or there, but primarily I'm in the growth mode of building our team.
That's good. So how long ago did you realize you should probably put what you called a 33 touch plan in place, where you stay in front of all these people enough so they know who you are and they remember you're still in real estate?
About 8 years ago, I always had a database, but I wasn't consistent with following up with them until I signed up with you guys. And the whole Vyral plan was really designed around keeping us accountable. Because I think as agents, we know what we need to do, but we don't do it, right? And so you guys being consistent of following up for the videos, getting it delivered, all of that was really the pinnacle for that. And then over the years and the conversations and everything, recognizing that we have to add people to the database has been a huge component. Like, I don't personally know enough people to generate the income level that I personally want to generate. So we have to constantly be adding new people into the database, into our systems, to be able to nurture those relationships to ultimately have a business that we know will be a predictable income.
Mm-hmm. How many people would you say you have on your list now that you're sending materials to?
Well, we just did the exercise that you had us do. I mean, my database is massive. I think we have about 50,000 people in the database, but not everybody. I used to do the whole throw up on everybody who would take my email newsletter and send it to everyone. And recently went through and did the exercise of seeing who actually is open and clicked our non-responses, as well as bad email addresses. We did the whole unbounce project. And so our email database list is now down to about 18,000, which is still significant. I know that there's parts of me that goes back and forth of thinking of even taking it down smaller, but we are really tracking through Sisu, which I'm sure we'll go over, but we're tracking our database ads, or whatever you want to clarify or classify them as. But one of the standards on my team is you have to add 2 new people a day to the database. And so by doing that, we're obviously adding more and more people. So the list is just larger than I would have anticipated it to be once we went through that exercise. But we're really focusing on adding value content and nurturing those relationships to where we're having a great success with it.
So we'll talk more about that today. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the importance of you're asking your team not only to make calls and talk to people, but get permission to stay in touch and enter them into the CRM, even if they're not interested in buying or selling a home right now, right?
Yeah.
Good. All right. So we'll go a little bit deeper into that. That's where Sisu comes in to be able to help track that, which I want to talk more about. But one of the things people may be asking, what do you actually send these people once you have them in your list?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things. So the conversation that the agent has is just like, hey, if they're circle prospecting or whatever that conversation of why they're calling. And then they end it with, well, great. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. One more thing before we go. We have this great community newsletter that we send out bi-weekly that updates you on cool things that are happening in the community as well as things happening in your neighborhood. I'd love to add you to it. What's a great email address for you? Or another one could be, we use a tool called a market snapshot. We have a market snapshot that keeps you abreast of everything happening in the market in your area. I'd love to add you to that. What's your email address? So they just are making sure they're getting that email address. And then once they get the email address, they go into our system, they're tagged for it. It automatically goes into Sisu as well through the toggles that we have built out, or whatever they're called. I don't know, I'm not tech, but whatever the thing we have built out shows that they're added. And then they get an email from us that welcomes them to our community newsletter. And then they just go on our 33 touch. Our content, like I said, for my personal one, I usually have a real estate specific, a video, or sometimes just a text, and then community information, and then spots where they can preview homes, check their home value, and that's it.
Cool. Hey, Brian, can we mute you out? Since you don't have a headset, we get a lot of background noise on you there.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll get to you in a second. There we go. And Spring, could you turn me down a little bit because your speaker's not a headset or reverbing into the mic?
Yeah.
So you just want to turn me down as low as you can just so you can barely hear me.
All right, still.
There you go. All right, so good. So what happens is this content goes out, these educational videos you're emailing out to your list. All right. You could track who's actually clicking the links and engaging on this material, almost like lead scoring. So I know at Keller Williams they have a new command, a CRM that will kind of tell you through artificial intelligence supposedly who's like ready to engage in your list so you can prioritize your phone calls. And for the longest time at Vyral, we've been doing that. You've been doing that of like, at least you know who's been clicking the links in your emails. Do you get those reports and do anything with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we get the reports and then we hand them out to the agents to call based off of what the links they clicked on every 2 weeks.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple system.
So simple. It's simple, but not easy. Meaning the not easy part is you just have to do it, you guys. Like, it's so simple, but that's really, Josh Stern, I think, is a client of yours as well. Yep. He was a coach of mine for years, and he just said, Spring, for your business to not run on adrenaline of you chasing that next deal over and over and over, your database has to be the number one thing that you do. And so I really took that to heart. I mean, I think he told me one year made like $1.4 million off of his database. And so from there, I was like, done and done. I will make sure that we are very systematic and just have content going out every 2 weeks.
Got it. So let's go through the 4 things that you covered here. So here's the answer, guys, on how to get more commissions from your database. There's 4 things that we'll spend a little more time on. We have to reconnect with your existing list. So take your existing database that maybe you haven't been communicating with, and we have to export it, deduplicate it, clean it up, and get a message out in some way. Let them know that you're still in real estate and you're there to help them. And if they have any questions, they can contact you. And you plan on doing a better job of staying in touch. Next, this is where Sisu comes in. It can really help you. Is you have to be very diligent about making sure that when you speak to people, you're offering them a subscription essentially to your newsletter. That's a good way of thinking about it. You're offering them a subscription to your newsletter at the end of every conversation to see if they'd be interested in giving you their contact information in return for you sending them item of value. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is that you reconnect with your existing list and you have a system either for yourself or for your team to keep building email addresses and permission-based list building of hopefully documented homeowners, if that's who they're talking to from Circle Prospecting, that's a good database, right? As opposed to some flaky buyers, right? You need to have some way to stay in touch with them. And what Spring does is she shoots 2 helpful videos a month, answering a commonly asked question or some insider market update that get emailed out, put on social media, boosted to her list. And if you wanted to, even mailed to your list. Actually, let me have an example here. You can send a little postcard out with the video like the interview we're doing now. And on the back of that postcard has a nice little strong call to action about why someone should use you, to use a little bit of direct mail. So you can kind of spin that content in many ways, which is kind of cool. You get my postcard, Spring?
Yep. You get all your stuff.
That's good. All right. And then finally, the very last step after reconnecting with your list, building your list, communicating with your list with something of value, something hopefully something so good people would pay money to receive, you will get a list. You'll get notified of people that are engaging with the stuff. You know, so if you sent out a video on the 3 things you must know before you sell your home, this summer, wouldn't you like to know who clicked the link to that? And somebody can follow up, and all that information, that plan is up on our website. But what I'd like to go into more depth today is really where everyone falls short. The videos are actually pretty simple. Get on the webcam, have a conversation, record it. They don't have to be that spectacular. They just have to be where people get to know you and see you. And when it comes to actually calling your leads, hopefully if you're making money in real estate, you're doing that already. So here's your lead list, make your calls. But if I don't have a good list at Vyral, or you don't have a database to send the stuff to, the whole thing comes crashing down. And how do you lead your team, if you're a team leader on this, how do you lead your existing agents, as well as yourself, by having some numbers to hold you accountable, probably like how many people are we adding to your list? So how many people do you have on your team, Spring?
14.
Got it. And they all are supposed to add 2 people a day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to do some math. 34?
14 times 2? 28.
No, 28.
Yeah.
God, this is recorded. Okay, 28. Great.
Yeah.
There's my math skills. So you're adding, hopefully, if you were tracking it, and that was a minimum standard across your team, 28 people a day to your list. Now, here is the question. Do you know if they're doing it or not?
Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. How do you know?
So we track everything in Sisu. So for you guys that don't know what Sisu is, it's a computer software program or technology that has an app as well, that the agents have an app on their phone, and they track what their activities are for the day. That ultimately ends up into a dashboard where I can go in and see every component of my business where it's at any time. So they're tracking it, but I can also see like, I'm pretty confident now. This is just barely like, I literally got an email from this today, but with API Nation or RealSync, I'm pretty confident that that once they put them into Boomtown, which is what I use, it will automatically go into Sisu. So they won't even have to go in and log it. It will come from what they've actually put in the database. So it's not self-generated information. It's that it's there, and I know that it happened.
That's great. So one of the things where one of the messages, there's Vyral clients watching this. One of the cool things that you guys set up, this is Brian, where you come in, is Brian's the CEO of Sisu, and saw a need in the marketplace for creating some type of, way of tracking all these numbers. Brian, what was the motivation behind starting Sisu?
Well, I actually jumped in about 4 or 5 years ago to help Spring with her business for about 1.5 years. And we found ourselves doing a lot of tracking on spreadsheets, putting it into daily numbers and then weekly and then monthly and then yearly. And there was no really good way to display it. And it was quite cumbersome. We found ourselves, spending a lot of hours just updating things in a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. So that's really how it started. And we wanted an easier way to track. So it started with an app, and then it went to dashboards, and then it's evolved from there. to where people are actually managing their whole business, more of like a transaction management that has that as well. So
it gives you the information you need to make decisions and better lead your people. What are the benefits of all that?
well, if you, I mean, can't see what your business is doing if you don't know. I mean, I think a really common thing is for people to, at the end of the year, say, hey, you know what? I want to do 300 transactions next year, right? I'm going to do that. And then the year starts going and the end of Q1 hits and people are like, oh, yeah, I was going to do 300 transactions. Where am I at? And typically they don't even know. So, in my opinion, if somebody can make a decision, if they know where they're at least once a month, they can make 12 major decisions a year. But if they know where they're at every day, they can pivot real time, anytime, just by knowing that information, knowing where they're lagging, knowing where their conversion ratios are low and where they should be coaching their agents and, really impacting their team.
Yeah. The metaphor with that I always go back to is like if you're flying a plane from LA to New York and you're off by like 1 degree.
Yeah.
You ain't ended up in New York.
One degree and you're, in a different country, right?
It's very significant. So the plane is constantly adjusting the entire time to be on track in real time. So, so one of the things I want to show you guys here is pretty cool. So Brian was able to integrate what we use at Vyral Marketing. We use a service called Emma. So there's lots of different email marketing providers out there. A lot of the things are the same about them, but the one we chose at Vyral to go all in with for all of our clients is Emma. Just a really good email service provider, like a Constant Contact that you may be familiar with. What's nice about Emma is they have a very robust API, meaning it talks to other things relatively easier compared to some other email marketing programs. So we have this Vyral Marketing Sisu integration, and that's just kind of fancy speak. And let me kind of show you what that is. So let's say you start this blog where you're going to start educating people about real estate, kind of what Spring does. Let me just show you really quick off the top of my head here. But if you were to start something like this, like the Omaha, Nebraska Real Estate Journal, let's say, if you're from Omaha, where I'm originally from, or I live now, the San Diego Real Estate Newsletter, you start with something like this, brought to you by you. And then you scroll down, you have all these wonderful videos, you have all this great content. You want to publish this out to your database and using multiple media, email, social media, direct mail, whatever. This is the foundation of your 33 touch. The key is you got to get people on the list to receive it. Got it? So Spring has a minimum standard of 2 people a day to the database, which is really low. I mean, how many people do your agents speak to a day, would you say, or maybe a week? Give me an idea of how many conversations. No, wrong question. In a given day with your 14 agents, how many conversations are they having?
So their minimum standard is 20 conversations a day. So I run my team a little differently of like, dependent upon what their goals are, is obviously going to depend on how many conversations they're having based off of what their agent personal goal is, right? Yeah. But their minimum standard is 20 per day. So it is low, and a lot of them are putting more in, but I also want to make sure that I don't have a standard that I'm not living by, yeah. Right? So it's like, this is
at least you have something.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
So what? 20 times 14 is 280. All right. I'll be ridiculous. Multiply it by 5. Your office might be speaking with about 1,400 people a week if they do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we track our conversations. I just had my meeting right before they had 3,500 conversations last month.
Okay. That's great. So 3,500 conversations. Now, at the end of every one of those conversations, I mean, think of all the work and the struggle and mental anguish and mindset and training and all the work that goes into making those connections actually happen, let alone how many dials. Right. I mean, probably tens of thousands of dials to actually speak with that number of people, right? So you actually get this person on the phone, and then you leave the conversation without getting permission to stay in touch. Shame on you, right? You should always be asking some type of permission to stay in touch to bring them onto your list. So we wanted a way for our clients to make that easy. Here's my calculator I was cheating on. All right, so you have this blog. We're using Emma for the broadcast emails for your 33 touch. It's not going through your CRM because honestly, their email deliverability isn't the best, and it's really meant for like more property drips. So you basically export all the contacts from your CRM into a separate email marketing program where you put your 33 touch people on. The challenge is how can you arm all of your agents to make it very easy for them to just start stuffing contacts of people that want to get your newsletter into Emma. And this is the integration that we put together. So check this out. So here's kind of an example of a script that Spring alluded to earlier. Hey, Bob, it was great speaking with you. Before you go, what you hear in the national media about real estate, it's not what's always happening here with home prices. We're in a local Silicon Valley real estate newsletter, local, Utah real estate newsletter with videos we send to our clients twice a month. These videos will help you make smart real estate decisions, and they connect our community. Anyways, what's your best email address? I'd love to send them to you. They are really helpful, and I think you'll enjoy them. Something like that, right? And they go, sure, send to me. Here's my email, frank@aol.com. Great. All right. So how do you actually get those emails into Emma? Well, what we did is we have this little subscriber form we create for our clients where the agent can select their name from the dropdown, put the email address in, how they heard about the person, some more details, and click submit. Boom. That pushes that contact right from that phone conversation right into Emma. And even better, it fires off a welcome email saying it was great to visit with you. You're now subscribed, with all the ways they can stay in touch with you. Which this email, this subscription confirmation email, is the single most important marketing email you can send, because they usually have like 50+ open rates after someone opts in the confirmation email. So imagine that if we could train your agents after 3,500 conversations in a month to use that script and to put that person's information, their email address and how they heard about them, whatever else, firing off a subscription confirmation email after every communication. That could really build your database. And if it was led well and held accountable, how much would that cost to do? Nothing. Right? So that's where the software comes in to help you with this, guys, is when you're doing your team meetings. I mean, Spring, you probably have a board in your office. Do you have like some key, like what would you say are the key numbers you track in your office? Like the most important 5 or 6 numbers, what are they?
So let me back up. I don't have a board. I have TV screens that are
like Sisu, correct. We've upgraded to that beyond the whiteboard.
Yeah, I have a 55-inch TV screens that track everything, but they toggle through the different dashboards. So I track contacts. We track it all, but we go over contacts, appointments gone on, under contracts, and closed are our main things. We track them by buyer and seller. And Sisu actually is super cool because it breaks down conversion ratios. So like, I'll give you an example right now. I just had my sales meeting right before this. We had a kick-ass month. We were doing phenomenal. But our listing inventory is really down this month. And so just being able to show them on the dashboard that's color-coded of, hey guys, we sold a lot of listings and you guys didn't take a lot of listings. So this is gonna be very crucial that we put a massive listing focus, or the next month is gonna be brutal, because we know listings drive everything, right? Yeah. But just being able to have your agents visualize that on a daily is super crucial. One thing that we've implemented, especially even on the nurturers and their personal activities, is I have them, when you use Sisu, there's a team dashboard and then there's individual ones. So every morning they log into their individual dashboard and they can see like a full-on glimpse of where their business is at. And it's super cool. I'll have agents like Slack me out a screenshot of their dashboard that they're proud of themselves, like, check me out, like how much money I've made, or I've done this. So the key metrics for us is contacts and then database ads. Because like you said, you and I had this conversation a year ago, is, hey, when the market shifts, you're not gonna be able to afford all this fancy marketing, Spring. So you're going to have to get really purposeful with your newsletter and your database, because it doesn't cost you anything. So it's been a really large focus of ours since that conversation I had with you about this. And so we track how many they've added to the database, contacts, and then obviously the normal stuff.
Instead of calling them database ads, call them subscribers.
Okay. Yeah.
Think of it as subscribers. I mean, if there's one takeaway, we have to humanize like the word database. We have to like humanize some of this language. Yeah, these are people that are open to subscribing to your material. And when you start getting into CRMs like outside of real estate, um, you have like Oracle, and you have Marketo, and you have HubSpot. You have all these, stages of customer life cycles. Let me see if I can pull something up really quick. Come on, where are they?
Oh yeah, I have HubSpot for my recruiting. You're right.
Yeah. Well, they don't have the. Darn it. Here, that's not what I want. No, this is what I'm trying to look for. Well, what I was looking for is that everybody enters the CRM at the very early stage as a subscriber.
Yeah.
That's the very first step of the funnel.
Yeah.
Is let's just get permission with some low item value. Just communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Swipe.
Well,
Swipe right on Tinder. Is it left? I don't know. Swipe right. Permission. That's it. That's all it is. And then the relationship starts from there, right?
Right. And I think that we're in a market that we have to start moving towards that relationship. I mean, we've always been that, but I mean, you building that relationship with your database is going to be so much more impactful than buying internet leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really getting to know who's in your database and treating them as if they're a human, just like you said. So I really, really do need to change that of like, who is this person that we're building a relationship with?
Yeah. So let's spend some time now. I really want to go deep on building the list of anyone who's watching this needs to really, really think about how much work and effort and money goes into the conversations they're having every week, and how it's completely unacceptable and inexcusable, and it's costing you a fortune. Not to slow down. I mean, just slow down and be a little more purposeful at the end of the conversation. Just to ask permission to stay in touch, to offer them a subscription to your local real estate newsletter, which is a video blog or a Facebook group. It would really be anything these days, but that's an easy way of thinking about it, right? Sisu will give you an app, a widget. What would you call it, Brian? An extra widget?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's a +1, right? Every time that happens, it's just logging it.
Yeah. So what I would want to track with what you were showing on your dashboard, Spring, is like, okay, we had how many contacts? Mm-hmm. How does someone log a contact in CRM in Sisu, Brian? Like, how do you know how many people they spoke? Is it manual entry?
So it depends. We have a bunch of integrations. So if it's being logged somewhere else, I mean, like if you have a Mojo dialer, we would do an integration with that. Or you can just hit a plus button and it'll just log that. Or we could also pull in, if you spend time on a dialer, hey, you know what? I had 300 dials and 75 conversations. Yeah. And I prospected for 3 hours. So all those types of things, we can either pull them in or we make it really easy to just log that.
Okay. So, someone's getting a phone call. All right. So what I have up here is you have your contacts, how many people you speak to, right? And I guess you could put dials ahead of that, right? Or attempts.
Yeah.
This is kind of how people have to think of their funnel, right? So you have attempts at the very top, and you make a lot of attempts to make a contact. Do you have any idea what the contact rate is across the board for you, Spring, on attempts? 10%, 5%, 20%?
How many calls are making to make contact?
Yeah.
I don't know on that. I could pull it. I mean, They track it all, but I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, so you have your attempts, which leads to speaking to somebody. So when you speak to some people, most people will not be interested in selling their home right now. I think we could all agree to that, right? But a lot of people may be interested in becoming a subscriber, right? So that's something that in Sisu can actually track that number of how many people did we get permission from to stay in touch? How many people do we add to our database today? Spring, what's your definition of a lead?
Somebody that they had a conversation with that's breathing. Just kidding.
That's good.
It depends on
We're not talking to dead people.
Yeah, it depends on where they're at. I mean, obviously, like if they've had the conversation and asked them to add them to the database, great. And then we have different standards to where in the funnel they are, if they're hot or nurture or watch or whatever. But
you have hot, explain that. So these are the different types of leads.
Yeah.
So
So
after subscriber, we have lead,
Yeah.
but you have many different definitions of this before they come to an appointment, right?
Yes, for sure.
Explain this and break this down for me now.
Yeah. So we run ours based off of the category new, which new means they're new into the system, like they've just registered or you just met them or whatnot. Qualify for us means that you're trying to qualify their motivation, that you've made the call attempt to get a hold of them. If it's an online lead or if it's somebody you met at an open house or whatever, you're just qualifying to get a hold to find out what the heck's going on with them, right? A hot is a hot, like you're dating them. A hot date, you're not neglecting. So a hot means they're going to purchase within 30 days and you're contacting them once a week. Nurture is somebody who's going to purchase within 3 months and you're reaching out to them at least every other week.
Got it.
And then watch is 3 to 6 months out, and that's a once a month conversation. Every single person needs to be on an e-alert, and every single person in those is also getting our newsletter.
Because they would all be by default subscribers too.
Yes.
Got it.
And then obviously we have archived. Those are people that are just out farther, and we can watch their activity if they're on the website, and we have to do set of when to follow up. They're all getting the subscriber information as well, and obviously we're seeing who's opening the emails to call them. Mm-hmm. But how we run ours, and everybody has a different way of doing it, but 100 active people in their pipeline at all times, no more or no less. Like if they've got more, then it's usually they're not following up efficiently enough. Yeah. That those out of their hot, nurture, watch, qualify, there's 100 people.
Got it. Let me write this out for the audience.
Yeah, and I think Frank, like, I don't know, you can't see but this is that Sisu app, and maybe we share a screen, but it's just like, they just go in and like push a plus or minus on contacts for some appointments signed. I can track, here's the thing added to database. They just push a plus, open house, 5-star reviews, referrals received. Did they meditate? Some thank you cards, number of dials. They exercised, hours prospected, appointments set, door knocked, and how many text messages.
Here, exercise?
Yeah, see, it's literally, can you guys see that?
Oh, you put the exercise in there, huh?
And the meditate. Yeah. Wow. So they just do a plus or minus. If they do it from their app, you can do it from the home screen as well. And then it just all feeds into a beautiful dashboard that they can visualize it.
That's cool. So let's go over that pipeline again. So we have attempts, which lead to contacts, which hopefully lead to, I forgot subscribers, the most important part. See, it's easy to forget. Whole point of me writing this. Contacts go to subscribers. That's the important piece of the funnel you have to add that we're talking about today. So they go on your touch program, which then leads you to leads. And the 3 types of leads you have are hot, nurture, watch, archive, which you went over.
And qualify.
And qualify, but that's kind of like you're working to attempt. That's
Yes.
kind of like you're attempting.
Yep.
Got it? And the whole point is eventually to work your subscribers and to work your leads, no matter what phase they're in, into appointments, right?
Yep.
Which turn into clients or listings or buyers, which turn into pendings and turn into commissions, right? Cool. So you're tracking your subscribers, right?
Yes.
Good. I love it. Brian, what holds people back from like putting these numbers in place to better lead their team? You know, you have so many people to build a team. They want to, for the most part, they want to lead people for the first time, but usually they might take a little bit too much raw leading and cheerleading and not enough like supervision and accountability, which your program provides. Tell me more about how people use the Sisu platform to get more out of it.
I think it's really more about leadership. You know, a lot of team owners, even a lot of brokers, started as a real estate agent or a salesperson, right? And it's really a shift to go from being that to actually leading people, right? There's a big difference. And so, you know, we see all the time, there are really two types. And one is the person who's going to lead their team. They will tell their team, hey, this is how we're going to do things now. We're going to have these challenges. I want you to track things. We're going to pull this in from here. It's going to be fun. Our culture is going to be like this. And it really, really drives their business. And then the other type of, I'll just say team leader for the time being, is somebody that says, hey, you know what? This looks really cool. I'm going to go share this with my team. And they ask their team, how do you guys feel about tracking? And how do you feel about me holding you accountable? Right? Those
I didn't start in real estate for this. I wanted freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, really? Oh, that doesn't sound good to you? Okay, we won't do it then. Right? And so that second situation, they're never going to grow their business. They're never going to lead their team. And it's just them making a shift from being a real estate agent to being a team leader. And so those are the type of people that also will stay in production pretty much forever because they really just don't lead their people.
Yeah.
So did that answer your question?
It completely answers my question. The whole benefit of, you know, we take it many steps further at Vyral. I mean, so I had to jump onto I got to have all my numbers in my reports. So I use exactly the same whole idea behind Sisu of knowing exactly what my numbers are. I have like all these daily reports that get emailed to me because I'm even too lazy to look at the dashboard. I just want to email it to me and see it, right? It'd be like someone taking screenshots of Sisu and emailing it to me. Fine, right? Because I don't have a cell phone. I can't check it on demand. But anyways, the other thing too is we've gone so far as to hire a team in the Philippines of 6 that literally listen to every single phone call that's placed at Vyral. So every single call is recorded and disclosed, and overnight, hours upon hours of phone conversation is listened to by a quality assurance team and scored, so we can coach and train our people on actual data. And I think that's so key with leadership is we want to come around and rah-rah everyone and get them all excited, and that's fine. There's a time and place for that, but not like 100% of your leadership. I mean, it's maybe like 30% or 25%. The rest of it needs to be like, okay, we kind of need to go through like a deposition on like what you're doing. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Let's really get to the depths of what your activities were and what you did and how it worked, and coach them to real actual numbers is where you're going to see these huge improvements in human productivity. And that's what CSU is going to provide for you. Specifically with relating to Vyral is, dude, you made like all these contacts last month. Added 3 people to your list. Oh, you actually know that, as opposed to saying, yeah, I've been adding people in my database. No, you haven't. I got 3. And you can really start having some very honest and real conversations, as opposed to, you know, dancing around like on the fluffy edges of it. You can get right to the heart of the matter. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, I think a lot of leaders that I've seen they're trying to figure out, what can I meet with my team about? If they just had a visual, they would know, where are my conversion ratios low? Where is my team struggling? Is it getting contacts to turn into appointments, or is it getting that listing appointment to turn into a listing? Where's the breakdown, right? And you can see that all the time. Or like you just said, they're speaking to 3,000 people a month, but you're getting 12 people a month added to your database. There's a huge breakdown. Or new subscribers. Let me rephrase that.
I was at Keller Williams family reunion, and you know, they turned on their CRM, and Gary said the next day, everyone uploaded all these, you know, probably hundreds of thousands of contacts from their databases to the system, and I believe it was only 8%, I think was the number. 8% actually had mailing addresses. So your database, and you want a mailing address, not just so you can direct mail them, but that where you actually know where they are and what part of the country. And on top of that, if you have the mailing address, let me show you something. If you pay attention to the mailing address, you can append email addresses. So there's a bunch of email append services out there that you can append email addresses to your database, but they all require the physical postal mailing address. And once you have that, that's the key identifier to be able to append all the other information you usually want on the contact to fill out your database. So not only do we have to build the database by asking permission to stay in touch, we got to make sure that we put the right data in there with regard to email address, first name, last name, and it'd be great if you had the mailing address, because then you actually know where people are. And you know, if you're in real estate and you're selling people homes, you might want to know where they live. Maybe. Or maybe not, I don't know. Only 8% had mailing addresses and never upload their stuff. So it's just this renewed commitment to grow your database and to make sure you actually get the right information in there. And with Sisu, you can lead your team and hold them accountable and guide them to actually do that on your behalf. I mean, we have a client out in the resort market. This was years ago. He had, I think he had at the time had 30 agents making calls for him every day. And their goal was to make like 30 contacts a day, definitely 20, great days 30, but 30 people, imagine 30 people speaking with 20 to 30 people a day. Let's call that like what, 700 to 900 people a day his office is speaking with. I'm like, oh my goodness, Greg, if we could just get those people to slow down and ask for emails. When they slow down for asking for emails, let's put the mailing address on there. And even better, let's tag them by like the neighborhood they're in, or let's tag them by the condos they're interested in. And he really led his team to start doing that. And a little tip is he got them out of their computers to not actually enter them on a computer because it slowed them down from their calls. He just had them write all the opt-ins on pieces of paper. And then at noon, there'd be like, you know, a couple hundred sheets of papers on a stack from all the agents of all their permission-based subscribers, right? So here's these stacks of paper from all the subscribers at noon that the agents wrote down from their calls. And then the administrative assistant in the office would manually go through and enter them all in and update the tags correctly. So that would feed the database. And that added a couple hundred people a day to his list. Now you compound that year after year after year, you have hundreds of thousands of permission-based subscribers on your newsletter. Well, that's how he sends, you know, does over like 10 million GCI. And a lot of it's very database driven and prospecting driven, not very heavy buying leads or kind of traditional branding marketing driven, which is a very dangerous place to be in if you're going to go into a market shift. Right, Spring? Right?
Yep, that's what you told me.
Yeah, well, good. So people came to this meeting. They wanted to know a little more about Sisu. I think we gave them a little bit more information on that. Where can they go to learn more about the Sisu product, Brian?
So if you just go to sisu.co, sisu.co, not .com, there you can actually just click on arrange a demo. Someone from our team will schedule a demo with you. You can actually just schedule it right there by accessing their calendar and just learn more about it.
Good. You go to getvyral.com on the homepage of our website. There's a video marketing plan you can download, which basically kind of goes a little bit deeper in what Spring talked about at the very beginning. There's 4 things you have to do if you want more commissions from your database. First, you need to reconnect, clean up, and let everyone know in your current one you're still in real estate. And there's a way to do that. Once you reconnect with your existing list, you have to have a commitment to grow your list or to empower your team to grow your list, your company list on their behalf, which we talked a little about today with the Sisu backing you up. And you got to send them stuff. We didn't go too in depth into that today, but if you just go to our website, you will see a million examples. Well, not a million, thousands. Okay, thousands of videos, educational, helpful videos of realtors all over the country that they're using to communicate and connect with their list at scale through media. And you can learn more about that, how we help you at Vyral do that by interviewing on a webcam to create videos. And then finally, the last step, you're sending all this stuff out. People are clicking on it. They're engaging on it. It would probably make sense if you prioritize some of your follow-up to some of those individuals before doing a bunch of cold calls. And I would just, you should think about that. It's like a fancy way of lead scoring to figure out who might be interested in talking to you. So, any parting thoughts, Brian or Spring?
No, I just, it's amazing how if somebody just does the simple things like you're saying, slow down, add them to your database, know exactly what's going on in your business, know how many you're actually adding, And if your agents are actually doing that kind of stuff, then you see people like you just used as an example with hundreds of thousands of people in their database. And
Yep.
I even see Spring's database with 18,000, and that's a huge asset to her. So just do it.
I would probably say that the biggest enemy with marketing is people mistake that they need to be creative over consistent. And the real estate business, actually any great business is very boring. Furniture, paint, any business Warren Buffett would invest in. Very boring, predictable, profitable businesses. We've heard this, right? But because the business gets so boring, we want to try to make it creative to make ourselves enjoy it again, I guess, more or less. But that same creativity takes away from making the money. And I think what we all have to get over ourselves is consistency with touching your list with very simple videos shot from the webcam is going to outperform creativity all the time, over time. That quote actually comes from Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's. Consistency beats creativity every day. So that's all I got. Spring, thank you so much. Hope you guys learned how to stay in touch with the database, get more commissions. Brian, thank you. We're all done. See you guys.
Thank you, Frank. We'll see you.